Blog Talk Radio.
It's a sad day at TNT as we say farewell to co-host Angelo Kane. But the show must go on as he would want it to, right here on Blog Talk Radio's Thursday Night Tailgate, with your hosts, Chris Mascaro and the outgoing Angelo Kane. Tonight, in our Farewell to Ange episode, the fellas welcome Packers groundskeeper Alan Johnson, World Golf Foundation CEO Steve Mona, former Rams Pro Bowl defensive back, a fan favorite of mine, LeRoy Irvin, former Seahawks and Redskins Pro Bowl defensive back, Shawn Springs. And there's no other way we could possibly send Ange off than by having former Rams Pro Bowl quarterback Jim Everett do the honors. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy this last episode with Angelo. Here's Chris and Angelo. We'll miss you, buddy. Guys, take it away.
Thank you, Joe Lajanusa. Hello, everyone. And yes, this is going to be the most difficult episode of Thursday Night Tailgate that I've been a part of over the last 2 years and 8 months, because tonight is the final roundup, the final episode with Angelo Kane as my co-host. This is the last day I get to say Ange and I have 5 great guests lined up for you tonight, so settle in and let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. It is indeed the end of an era in TNT history, so grab your Kleenex as I attempt to keep it together for the next 2 hours as Ange and I go for one last ride together. I want to get him in early tonight, so let me bring him on board now. Ange, how you feeling about your last night?
I'm actually doing okay, but I don't want you turning this to some sort of Oprah episode here. Come on, man, put the Kleenex away. We're going to have a good time. There's no crying on TNT. Come on, pull yourself together. It's ridiculous.
I'm going to try to keep it together for you, brother, but I make no promises.
Oh, my God. You're an embarrassment. Come on. You can do it.
Jim Everett told me earlier today that
good. TNT goes on. It's just going to be a little different, but it's going to be just as good. Well, maybe not as good, but almost as good.
Jimmy told me earlier today that he's going to have a bucket and a towel by the phone when he calls in later. So, for crying out loud. This could get ugly about 90 minutes from now.
Oh, God. I wouldn't want it any other way, so I appreciate you saving him for last.
Absolutely. Like Joe said at the top, there isn't any other way we could have possibly sent you off than by having Jim Everett be your final guest. So we look forward to Jimmy about 90 minutes from now. Hey, we got a special farewell message for you.
I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Angelo Kane for his service on TNT, bringing football talk to America. I wish you all the best in your painting endeavors. And from one painter to another, just make sure you color within the lines. Best of luck, Angelo. All the best.
There you go. Nice little message from George Bush. Good for you, brother.
There you go. That's important right there when you get a message from a fake George Bush.
That's right. It doesn't get much better than that. All right. Before we get started, we want to kick off the show like we do every week here on Thursday Night Tailgate by saluting our military personnel listening in on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We also want to thank those of you who serve in every branch of public service. Thank you for your service to your country and to each and every one of us. We appreciate what you do every day to protect our freedom and our liberty, which allows the rest of us to do what we do. Our sincere thanks as well to Dennis Farrell, Stephen Lee, and all the folks at Armed Forces Radio. It's an honor for us to be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org and clicking on the sports link that you're going to find in the bottom right-hand side of the homepage or in the radio link in the upper right-hand corner. And be sure to give those guys a follow on Twitter at the AFRN, the Armed Forces Radio Network. Very important to them as well. We also want to make sure everyone knows that Saturday is Armed Forces Day. It's our day to pay tribute to the men and women currently serving in the Armed Forces. To our general audience, please make sure you do something this Saturday to recognize the folks in our military. Random acts of kindness to any military personnel you might see. Make a contribution to the Wounded Warriors Project or to the USO, or just stop by and say thank you when you see a member of our military walking by. They do so much for us. Take this opportunity to let our military personnel know how much we appreciate the sacrifices that they're making every day for us. Like we say every week here on TNT, we got 5 great guests in store for you tonight. Joe mentioned them at the top. Let me run through them for you. First up is going to be Packers greenskeeper Alan Johnson. We'll chat with Alan about the awesome responsibility it has to be maintaining one of the most hallowed grounds in all the sports. Plus, we'll talk about some of the technology they use, and that stuff is unbelievable. The technology that they go to and that they utilize to protect the field when they get heavy amounts of snow, rain, that sort of thing. Alan's going to be along with us here in just a few minutes. At the bottom of the hour, World Golf Foundation CEO Steve Mona will be here. The World Golf Foundation manages the First Tee and the World Golf Hall of Fame. Steve is their first CEO, so we look forward to talking with him about their initiatives. He's going to be along about 30 minutes from now. Later this hour, former Rams Pro Bowl defensive back LeRoy Irvin will join us. LeRoy is one of the greatest defensive backs in Rams history, and maybe even in all of NFL history. Played in the league 11 seasons, all but one of those with the Rams. He holds the NFL record still for the most punt return yards in a game, 207 back in 81 against the Falcons. He also needs to explain to us, that video. If you haven't seen it, we've put it out on our Facebook page, and I think it's actually out on our website as well. It's called Ram It. You got to see this thing to believe it. It was sort of their answer to the Bears Super Bowl shuffle. Hilarious. We got to get LeRoy to talk about that. He'll be here, like I say, about 50 minutes from now. We'll kick off the next hour by talking with former Seahawks and Redskins Pro Bowl defensive back Shawn Springs. Shawn is the son of former Cowboys running back Ron Springs. In 2004, Shawn led the Redskins in interceptions and sacks, becoming the first player in NFL history to lead his team in both of those categories. We'll hear from him at the top of the next hour. And, of course, like we've said all along tonight, we're going to wrap up the show the only way we could do justice to Angelo's last episode with our good friend Jim Everett. Goodness knows what Jimmy's going to talk about, but words will get spoken. We'll have our final says and goodbyes to Ange, and that's going to happen about 90 minutes from now. So we're jam-packed, as we always are, on TNT. We thank you for taking the journey along with us again tonight. Now, before we get to any of our guests, let's start off by a word from our friends over at Kyvan Foods. Their salsas, sauces, and spices, fantastic.
Add great flavor to your next tailgate party with Kyvan salsas. Former NFL tight end Reggie Kelly created these salsas for dipping chips and much more. In hot and mild flavors, Kyvan salsas make a great marinade. They are terrific in meatloaf and are super toppers for everything from baked potatoes to scrambled eggs. It's a great ingredient to enjoy in a variety of family favorite meals. And some people say Kyvan salsa is a meal to itself. With all the possibilities, Kyvan is truly salsa with soul. Kyvan salsas are also made from natural ingredients, and they are preservative-free. So look for Kyvan, that's K-Y-V-A-N, at area Walmart stores or online. Click on the Kyvan logo on our website to check retail and online locations. More information at Kyvan82.com.
Kyvan Foods are brought to you by our friend and former Bengals and Falcons tight end Reggie Kelly. Be sure to check out their recipes on our site, ThursdayNightTailgate.com, as well as their own, Kyvan82.com, and give them a like on Facebook. It's Kyvan, K-Y-V-A-N. Appreciate the goodness. We also want to mention our good friends, Mike Novaks, Ben Kerr, Mark Medeski, and the rest of the great staff over at LastWordOnSports.com. Check them out online and on Twitter. Their site, fantastic, folks, I'm telling you. Contains great content across all sports. Their staff of writers are outstanding. If you haven't been on their site yet, check it out, then bookmark it. LastWordOnSports.com. I have one announcement to go before we get to our favorite segment, which is the What's Driving Me Nuts. But, please keep your prayers and your thoughts going towards Jim Kelly. And keep tweeting using the hashtag PrayersForJK. Jim continues to undergo treatment for cancer that he's battling. I think everyone knows that now. He's back home in Buffalo. He's still looking to be an active voice for Western New York as it relates to keeping the Bills in Buffalo, regardless of who ends up buying the team. We wanted to ask that you keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Plus, as you've heard, us talk about at the beginning of every show over the last couple of months, great product that Jim's company has put together called My Fan Clip. If you go to jimkelly.com, you'll find a link at the top of the homepage. There are sort of modified gem clips that people typically use, in offices to hold together, stacks of paper, files, that sort of thing. But Jim even used his as a money clip. He took those clips and got licensed to put team logos from every professional sports team, plus the NCAA and NASCAR on them. Part of the proceeds go to Jim's charities that he works for, that's Hunter's Hope and Kelly for Kids. I bought some that with the Steelers, the Penguins, Red Sox, Pirate logos on them. We use them for chip clips, but you're going to find thousands of uses for these things. So go to jimkelly.com, check them out. They're great and a fantastic idea that Jim came up with. All right, Ange, one final What's Driving Me Nuts, and you got to take the lead, my friend.
I will gladly do that, and I'm going to give you one that's going to be keeping you, familiar with, me throughout these next 4 months, because I guarantee you what I'm going to tell you now is what's going to be driving me nuts for the next 4 months, maybe even 5, as we wait until the new season starts, and that has definitely got to be the circus that is the Browns. And the circus all begins with Mr. Johnny Football, because I'm already sick of hearing about the quarterback controversy, the countdown to when he's going to start, if Brian Hoyer should even have a shot at regaining his or retaining, actually, his starting position. I mean, this is the Jets and Tebow and Sanchez all over again. I mean, it's just ridiculous already, and we're just getting started. The guy hasn't even put on his jersey yet. So as you don't have me the next few months, just know that every week that is going to be driving me nuts.
That's great. I'm sure it will, and me as well. You know how I feel about, we've had the Browns as my sort of what's driving me nuts, fairly regularly so far this year. So, yeah, that's going to be, I'm sure, at the top of my list as well. We've got our first guest, Alan Johnson, hanging on the line. I'm going to get to Alan in just a minute, and he may appreciate this one because, as I have over the last couple weeks, I'm going to switch sports a little on you. And last weekend on our sister show, Next on the Tee, I had the privilege of interviewing 2003 PGA champion Shawn McKeel, who was fabulous, by the way. Great interview. If for our listeners who haven't heard that interview, go to nextonthetee.net and check it out and let me know what you think. But here's what I learned, Ange, during the interview, and this is what's driving me nuts. The winner of the PGA championship, right, along with the $1 million check that he wins, gets the Wanamaker Trophy, right? You've seen the Wanamaker Trophy, right, Ange? Big, huge, beautiful trophy, right? So I asked Shawn, when you got back to your hotel after you won, what'd you do with the trophy? Did you put it up there on the counter? Did you sit there and stare at it? Did you sleep with it? What'd you do? And he said he didn't get to keep the trophy. He said the PGA says if you want a replica of the trophy, that's going to cost you $40,000. I'm sorry.
A replica?
What? Yeah, if you want a replica of the trophy, it's going to cost you $40K. Really? I just won the PGA championship, and if I want the trophy that comes with it, I got to stroke you a check for $40,000? Really? Man, that's crazy, Ange. If it weren't crazy, which it is, why wouldn't the first place check be $960K and the winner gets the trophy? Just take the $40K out. Really?
Right.
To ask the winner of a major championship on the PGA Tour to pay for his trophy is ridiculous. For crying out loud. Stock down PGA. It's, to me, it's like telling the Seahawks, oh, do you want a replica of the Lombardi Trophy? Oh, that's going to cost you $40K, right? Or Boston, you want the World Series trophy? Okay, you got to make a check out to Major League Baseball for $40,000, and then we'll get right on that for you. Who makes the winner of an event buy the championship trophy? I'm telling you, that since I talked to Shawn over the weekend, that's been driving me nuts all week.
That is nuts, man. I mean, it's bad enough that you got to ask for one, but $40,000?
Right. And it's not even for the real Wanamaker trophy. That's for to your point, that's for the replica.
Oh, my God.
Come on. Crazy. All right, we've had our guest hanging on the line for a while. We appreciate his patience. And now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Alan Johnson. Alan is the fields manager for Lambeau Field and the Green Bay Packers. He's been with the Packers organization for nearly 17 years. He's got a BA in Applied Science at Northern Michigan. He also studied turf and turf grass management at Penn State. He was recently elected as the president of the Sports Turf Managers Association, and we're honored to have him a part of Thursday Night Tailgate tonight. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
Fantastic, thank you. So, Alan, let's start at the beginning. I read that you were raised on a dairy farm in Upper Michigan. Is that where you developed, your interest in turf grass management?
I think that was kind of like the start of it, but not necessarily in turf grass. If you had told me when I was a kid that you could make a living taking care of a football field, I would have said, "Come on, you got to be kidding." So, I mean, I didn't know it was an industry. I didn't know it was a career. It kind of fell into my lap, sort of thing. But definitely the love of working outdoors and being on equipment and being around nature and growing things definitely helped for sure.
So how did it fall in your lap?
The short, it's a long story, but the short, I'll give you the abridged version was left the farm. I didn't know what to do with myself, so I joined the Army. Was in Europe for a little while, served in the first Gulf War, came back, was in New Mexico, got out of the Army, went to college in Northern Michigan, got out of college, had a degree in something else, in public administration actually, and was looking for work in my field. Wasn't finding anything right away, so eventually I just took a job, and I happened to be in, that was before the day of the internet, where it wasn't so easy just to find a job anywhere in the country. You had to go to the local library, dig through newspaper ads, and find work that way. So I took the first job that I got offered in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I won't name what it is, but it was basically working in an office setting in a cubicle. Okay, and I didn't know any better, so I did it, and I don't want to say anything negative about that type of work, because a lot of people have to work in those types of settings, but it wasn't for me, and I guess that's an understatement. I was miserable, and so I didn't stay too long. I every day basically I jogged at my lunch during my lunch to about 3 or 4 blocks downtown Green Bay. There was an unemployment office, place where you could sign up for unemployment benefits and also look for work. One day there was this Post-it note, and it literally said, looking for physical, temp labor, construction type work, see Steve in the construction trailer in the Lambeau Field parking lot. That was the spring after the Packers had won Super Bowl 31 in New Orleans. And I didn't know what they were doing at the time, and I liked football, but I didn't grow up in Green Bay, so I wasn't like a huge Packer fanatic. But I thought, it's outside, so I went there that evening, and I met the fella, and that's when I learned about the whole industry. He was a guy who was a company out of Texas, and he went around the country building upscale golf courses and high-end sports fields. And we hit it off. The veteran connection was he had been a veteran when he was young, served in Europe as well. And we hit it off immediately. I started working for him the next day. I quit my job, and what came out of it was, to the end of the summer, the fellow that was taking care of the fields at the time was looking to hire an assistant, and ended up getting to know me, got hired as an assistant, and within 2 years, they offered me the chance to take over the role. And it's going into my 18th season, so... Basically, so the good lesson I tell young people, if you're out there in the world and you hate what you're doing, don't stay there. keep trying something different until you find something you really like to do, because you're going to spend a lot of time at work in your life, and it's been really good. I really enjoy it. It's been, a lot of responsibility, enough for me. It's just enough, and a lot of learning and always something different, and it's been great.
So to that end, Alan, when I think about the most hallowed grounds on the planet, Lambeau Field is right up there with Augusta National, the Old Course, Fenway Park, the Vatican, a patch of land over in Bethlehem. It doesn't get much bigger than Lambeau Field. Talk about the responsibility of taking care of a patch of land that is so revered across sports.
I think what helped me when I first started was I understand how special it is and how unique it is and how big it is, especially to so many people. But when I came into it, I didn't know that. I didn't approach it that way. I liked football. My dad watched the Packers. I watched, but I wasn't a super, fan. And so I came and had the opportunity. I thought it was neat, but I wasn't overwhelmed by it. And I think actually, as I've been in the business longer over time, I felt and noticed the tension to it and the pressure more. But when I started, I didn't know. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it at all. I was like, this is the football field, and I'm going to do my best. I try to have a high standard for myself, and basically to keep my job and to keep everybody happy. And I just approached it that way. And every year I try to get a little better. And now I know the enormity of it, but I don't think about it. If you thought about it, it would be more. It is stressful, but if you thought about it too much, it would be way more stress. So to me, right. I treat it as a football field. I view it like it's my name behind it, my name and my guys that work on it, and we take a lot of pride in doing a good job, and we just approach it that way. And to be honest with you, sometimes we do the best we can, and sometimes it's not always perfect. Things don't always go our way. Sometimes weather doesn't cooperate. Sometimes we try something, it doesn't work. But luckily, hopefully, it's nothing been so glaring that it's super obvious or detrimental to the performance of the field for the team.
That's amazing. The guy that's closest to that turf just kind of shrugs like, hey, it's a football field.
Yeah, right.
It's Lambeau. Was there a moment where it kind of clicked to you? I mean, I know you said like over time, but was there ever like a moment, a game, somebody saying something to you where it finally clicked like, oh, okay, I get it now?
Well, you definitely feel it. You feel it all the years I've been there when there's playoff games and all the media and when the town shuts down and we've had an NFC championship game, you start to it really hits home in those situations. It also hits home, to be quite honest, when you're out there mowing the field and we have tour groups that go, that come in around the field to the field's edge, people on paid tours, and they come in and they ask if they can have some grass clippings.
Oh, wow.
Right. That would be me.
Yeah. So if people are asking for grass clippings, and I'm sitting there, I'm putting the stuff in the compost yard. I mean, I couldn't keep it all, and I have piles of it. I gotta get rid of it.
I'd be doing the same thing. Chris will tell you I had a little. I have a little thievery in my past from Augusta, but we won't get into any specifics. But
so knowing that it means so much to so many people, it just makes it extra special. It makes it an extra special place to take care of, for sure. And I'd have a lot of pride in it, no matter what it was, just because that's my personality. But it makes it extra special that I ended up in this place, for sure. Yeah. And now I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Yeah.
Oh, I would think that would be the best place in the world.
Talk about home.
Yeah. Talk about some of the challenges that you have managing that turf. I mean, you got the weather up there to deal with. I know that you guys a little while ago installed some Grassmaster playing surface. Talk about some of the things that you've seen, the changes that you guys have brought in, and just the challenges of maintaining that surface.
Sure. Well, the challenges in the whole sports field industry. If you watch ESPN Classic, you can see how far fields have come even in today's world. Just watch some of them old ESPN Classic games, even some actually old Super Bowl games, and the fields weren't quite what they are today. And part of that has to do with fields back in the day, and a lot of community fields and high school fields are still built the same way. They're just built with the soil that happens to be on site, so they call it native soil. And typically that soil might not be the best for drainage, so it'll have a lot of clay and silt in it. So they don't drain well, which is typically why if you go to a high school field, there's a big crown on it, a 3-foot crown, so the water can drain out the top. So probably 10 to 15 years ago, they started following the construction of the USGA greens, and they started building fields out of sand. And in the south, where they have Bermuda grass, which is, roots really well in the heat of the summer, and then when it cools off and goes dormant, their winter is like our summer, so then they can overseed with cool season grasses. So they have some sort of growing season year-round. They can keep enough turf cover to hold the sand together, to keep it stable and to keep it together. So we want the sand for the drainage, and it works well in the south. But in the northern climates, we only have till, I would say, our growing season. Boy, I don't even know if it started yet, to be honest. It's been a pretty cool spring. So starting about now till honestly good growing mid-September, beginning of October, and we still got a lot of football left.
Yeah.
So we want the sand for drainage, but you only have so many options basically to keep things stable. And a lot of teams, what they do, and we used to do this in the past, is when that center part wears out and it can't keep up, you just cut that out, and you have a contract with a really good sod grower, and you bring in some really thick sod and put it back in those areas, and that's fine. That's one way to do it. And we used to do that, but it was difficult because locally, all the sod producers, when that time of year when you need it, it's froze. So we'd have to get, the whole area is frozen ground. So it's not just like go down the road and get some sod. So it was there's a process of getting sod from across the country and transporting it and hoping the weather worked out on both sides and everything went well. And then when you put it in, you're still, nervous that it wasn't going to be as good. So when we reconstructed our fields, I think the last one we did Lambeau in 2007, we used a technology that has been used primarily in Europe, and that's the DD Grassmaster system. And basically they come in with a machine and they stitch in synthetic fibers every 3/4 of an inch on square. And they go down about 7 inches into the sand profile and they stick out about an inch. And what that is, it's almost like artificial roots. And then we grow the grass in amongst that. And so at the beginning of the year, you don't see any fibers. In fact, you wouldn't see any of those fibers hardly at all year. Late in the year, when it starts wearing thin in those high wear areas and we don't hardly have any grass left, the synthetic fibers hold the sand perfectly stable. And then it's no different than a artificial surface where you have, except artificial surfaces, so they have synthetic fiber, sand, and rubber. We just don't have any rubber.
Yeah. Wow. So has it ever been proposed that they install a completely synthetic turf at Lambeau? Or, I mean, I'm sure that wouldn't do wonders for your job security, but...
Well, I wouldn't have as much to do now, would I?
All right, on to the next question.
I'd probably talk it up, though, and say that thing needs a lot of cleaning or something like that.
yeah, exactly. So how often have the players or the opposing teams complained about the field?
I think not to my knowledge, we haven't had many complaints about the field. Complaints at all might come just because we're playing football on such cold temperatures, or they might have a perception like late in the season last year during our last few games during the playoff game, it got so cold that basically what happened was we had the tarp on over the field. It was late November, and we had them against the Viking game, and we were going from temperatures that were kind of mid-30s, high 20s, and literally that night before the Viking game, it dropped to about 2 or 3 degrees, and we put a tarp over the field and blew warm air under it, and then when we had to take the tarp off, it was like 7 degrees. So it kind of shocked the field. To go from that drastic of a temperature swing, it kind of shocked it, and you saw the color go out of it completely during that game. It like went from green to gray, and everywhere someone stood, it didn't bounce back up, and it progressively got worse for the Steeler game, and we played someone else in there too, but I don't remember who. And then for the playoff game against the 49ers, you could see it was almost bleach white, but it was just, it went into dormancy, so that was dormant bluegrass. That's white. But so I'm sure the players, when they walked out there, like, good God, right? And but it played fine. It played actually perfect. It was great footing, and it was a soft surface. We can measure the hardness of the fields nowadays, and all the fields have to fall within a certain line, and the field was definitely safe and soft enough, and the footing was excellent. We could have, if we chose to, went ahead and dyed the field green to just make everybody happy the way it looked, but we decided not to. It's football,
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
we got our next guest, Steve Mona, hanging on the line now, and a couple more before we let you run real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Curious. You talked about, the field, and Ange alluded to it, from a consistency perspective. Is the field, is your goal to keep it at a constant state, or might it get a little soggier, when the Bears come to town?
I think the Bears have enough trouble. No, I'm just kidding. No, the truth of the matter is we want the field to be as safe and perform the best they can no matter what. I don't think there's any of that going on, to be honest. You got to remember that our team goes and plays on away fields too. So as an industry and our peers, we all try to raise each other up and help each other to make the field the best. You can't make a field worse for one team and better for one.
Right.
It's they play on the same field, so I don't think there's any advantage that way, and we certainly don't do anything like that. No. But it's nice.
You talked about
nice to the fans. Nice to the fans to dream about that, right?
Right. Always a conspiracy theory.
Right.
So, you talked about the tours. Have you had a situation where you've come across people trying to spread ashes of relatives on the field? Because I have specific instructions that my ashes are to be spread partly over Fenway Park and partly at Augusta National. So, Ange, you know what you need to do if things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But do you deal with people coming in with, sprinkling a little thing here or there?
That does happen once in a while. That's not condoned or, how can I put it? Well, to be honest with you, it does happen, but it's not something we encourage for sure. But it does happen. People sometimes do it, even though we don't want it to happen. And the interesting
you got to get the vacuum cleaner out and get that up.
I won't say, but I wouldn't say that it stays there for eternity. But interesting about that, though, is here's something that it's very obvious when people do it, and now I know what it looks like. It's obvious what it is. It's sometimes that little pile of ashes, they'll kill the grass. There'll be a spot, it'll be dead as can be, and it won't come back. And sometimes it doesn't. But it's not consistent. It doesn't always happen. And my theory is it just has to do with how that person lived their life. If they were a mean-spirited, sour person, that grass is going to be dead. Yeah, and if they were a good, compassionate, lived their life on earth good, the grass is still green. The grass is the indicator of how you lived your life.
Wow, that's a great story.
So it does happen, but we try to not encourage it, that's for sure.
Right. Well, Alan, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us. You were fantastic to talk to, a real pleasure. We hope you'll come back and share some more stories, get into maybe we have some more time to talk about the technology and that sort of thing if you come back and join us sometime. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. It was a pleasure. And I'd like to say thank you to all the service members that are serving our country out there.
All right. Thank you, too, for your service to the country. All the best to you and your family. We look forward to catching up soon, Alan.
Okay. You guys have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Yep. Bye-bye.
That's some good stuff there, Ange.
Yeah. Oh, it's just hilarious that the guy that's, watching over the hallowed or most hallowed ground is like, just grass.
Yeah. And meanwhile, to his point, people are asking for, grass clippings and that sort of thing because that's how much people care about it, which, again, to your point, that would be you and me. We would be asking for the grass. Can I have a patch of that? What are you going to do with that?
Yeah. Well, that would be you. I wouldn't ask.
I know. You'd get out the baggie. I'm with you.
That's right.
All right, so we've got our next guest, Steve Mona. We're going to get to him right on the other side of this quick commercial break.
If you suffer from joint pain, you need to contact our friend, Dr. Peter Candelora and the folks at Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, located in Newport Richey, Florida, just north of Tampa. Dr. Candelora has practiced orthopedic surgery since 1989 and is board certified, a member of the Florida Orthopedic Association and American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. His experienced staff of medical professionals are ready to help get you back to enjoying life. Coastal Orthopedics has all the latest technology to get your joints feeling good again. Their state-of-the-art facility and attention to detail will ensure you will be enjoying life again and feeling invincible. So let's get active. For more information or to schedule an appointment, go to bone-dr.com or call them 727-848-1417. That's 727-848-1417 or online at bone-dr.com. They're also proud sponsors of Mike Ditka's Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund. See the official bat of Major League Baseball, made right before your eyes, at the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, located in downtown Louisville. Every guest gets a free Louisville Slugger souvenir mini bat at the end of the tour. See the world's biggest baseball bat and hold game-used bats from Mickey Mantle, Cal Ripken Jr., and more. Lots of interactive exhibits, and check out the museum store where you can buy a personalized Louisville Slugger with your signature on it. Visit sluggermuseum.com for more information.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, former Buccaneer and Houston Texan, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach with the Baltimore Ravens. You are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys, Chris and Angelo, on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Steve Mona. Steve is the CEO of the World Golf Foundation, an organization that manages the World Golf Hall of Fame, the First Tee, and Golf 2020. He was the CEO of the Course Superintendents Association of America for 14 years, executive director of the Georgia State Golf Association here in Atlanta for over a decade, and we're excited to have him as a part of Thursday Night Tailgate tonight. Hey, Steve, thanks for being here.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Steve, you got to be coming off one of the biggest weeks of the year for the World Golf Hall of Fame with the Players' Championship being last weekend. How was it?
Oh, it was terrific. It really was a great week. The field was excellent, as it always is. The caliber competition was terrific. We had a little bit of rain right there at the end on Sunday, but we were able to get it in and finish up on Sunday evening. Had a great champion in Martin Keimer, and probably most importantly, we're able to generate substantial dollars for charity here in Northeast Florida. So all in all, a terrific week once again.
Was it the highest attendance week that you get at the World Golf Hall of Fame, or did you get a bigger crowd when you're actually doing the inductions?
Well, yeah, we do. The induction ceremony clearly creates the biggest audiences at the Hall of Fame. But I'll tell you, when we have the players in town, the Hall of Fame's only about 30 minutes away, and a number of people will typically come down in the morning and go out to the tournament in the afternoon. So it's a great week for us. And in addition to that, Friday night, or a week ago Friday night, we opened up a new exhibit called Honoring the Legacy, a tribute to African Americans in golf. And this is the first time a permanent exhibit was dedicated to the African Americans' contributions to the game, and it was very significant. It was a great evening.
I was reading a bit. You guys have actually changed the criteria, right, for consideration for the World Golf Hall of Fame. I think it was changed earlier this year. As I read it, you have to have 15 victories, which is up from 10, 2 majors or players' championships, and you have to be 40 at the time of the start of the selection year or removed from play for 5 years. But just trying to get a point of clarity about it, Steve, can a player be 40 and still active on the tour and get in, or do you have to be 40 and 5 years removed from play?
So you can be active, but if you retire prior to 40, and that's mainly for the women who sometimes do that, they then have to be 5 years removed from active competition. But you can be active on either tour, for that matter, and still be eligible.
Okay. So one of the other things that is changing in the world of golf is, the folks trying to encourage the RNA to allow female members. The vote's coming up on that in September. How closely are you working with the RNA or influencing the RNA to kind of move progressively forward to allow women?
Well, the RNA is a member of our board. Peter Dawson, their chief executive, sits on our board. He chaired it a few years ago. But I would say this, the RNA obviously is a sovereign organization, and that issue is actually a membership issue. The RNA actually is really two entities in one. One is the entity that writes and interprets the rules for really the entire globe, with the exception of the United States and Mexico, which the USGA has jurisdiction over. And then the Royal and Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews, Scotland, is the membership club that is taking this historic vote in September. I happen to be a member of the RNA, and so I'll be one of those voting on the subject. And I can tell you, I talked to Peter shortly after the release was disseminated regarding this vote, and he and the other officials of the club very much want to see this happen, and I'm pretty confident that that's going to be the outcome.
That's fantastic. Good for you guys.
So, Steve, for those who have maybe thought about heading over to World Golf Village but just haven't yet, give them an idea of what's out there and some of the things that they should definitely take a look at.
Well, it's a fantastic place. The way that I describe it is Disneyland for adults who love golf. That's the best way probably, or Disney World, I should say, to describe it. But here's what you have there. You've got the World Golf Hall of Fame as the centerpiece, 70,000 square feet. The average amount of time a guest spends in the Hall of Fame is 3.5 hours, so I encourage your listeners to dedicate at least that amount of time to touring the Hall of Fame. We also have an IMAX theater, which plays documentaries, but also first-run Hollywood movies. It's the largest screen in Northeast Florida. We have an 18-hole grass putting course. We have a challenge hole, which is a loose replica of the 17th at TPC Sawgrass. Then in addition to that, the Honors Golf Company has two 18-hole golf courses, one the Slammer and Squire, which was designed by Sam Snead and Gene Sarazen, right on the property of the village, and then the King and the Bear, designed by Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, about 2 miles away. There's a Renaissance Hotel. There is a Blue Green timeshare, and there's a Caddyshack restaurant. There is a gift shop in the Hall of Fame, another cafe in the Hall of Fame. Really, there's something for everybody there, no matter your age. If you love golf, you have to come, as Gary Player says. But even if you don't, there's other things to do.
Right. Do you have a favorite piece of memorabilia or favorite exhibit that's at the Hall of Fame?
Well, I have to tell you, my new favorite exhibit is this African American exhibit. It is tremendous. If you think about it, golf's about 500 years old, and for all these years we really haven't accurately and fully told the history of golf for this one segment of the golf industry, and now we do. And then the centerpiece of that exhibit, and this was really interesting to me, is a helix, and on it are 15 of the most influential members of the African American golf community, starting with John Shippen. He's at the bottom, and at the top is Tiger Woods, and in between are a number of different very influential figures in the game of golf from the African-American community, including Charlie Sifford, the only African-American in the Hall of Fame today. But what's most important are two things. One, at the very top above Tiger is an empty place for the next person, because we know someone's going to come along that's going to be historically significant and deserve a place in there. The second thing to keep in mind is the helix represents the human DNA. And I didn't know this until the sculpture, the artist of the sculpture, came and spoke the night of our ceremony, when he said that 99% of, well, let me put it to you this way. Everybody's DNA is 99% identical. So you and I, our DNA is 99% identical. 1% is what distinguishes us. So what it really tells me is all of us as human beings are really the same, except for 1% that distinguishes us. And that's really powerful. So that exhibit really tells that story. And I'm really proud of that exhibit, I have to tell you.
Now, is that a short-term exhibit, or is that going to be up for a while, or what's the how long that going to be up there?
It's a permanent exhibit. It's not going anywhere. So as long as the Hall of Fame's there, it'll be there. So, yeah, we're really happy with that.
Oh, very good. How many people are you getting out there annually now?
Well, for the Hall of Fame and for all of our different attractions, we will have about 200,000 people annually visit. That includes the Hall of Fame, the IMAX Theater, the putting course, the challenge hole, and special events that we conduct at the Hall of Fame. So 200,000 people a year are passing through our doors in one form or another.
Wow, very good. I used to work in the golf industry. I used to work at Golf Week Superintendent News. So I remember, when you came on, and when I got there was right when Tiger Woods had really just come on the scene, and he's been the face of the game for such a long time now. Share how you've seen the game change since the early days he came in to, now that he isn't as dominant or as televised as he'd been. How do you look at it?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing that Tiger did for the game, and we're all eternally grateful for to him for this, is he brought the casual fan into golf. And that's true even today. You look this year, the Masters and the players, obviously the ratings were off relative to last year. A lot of that had to do with Tiger. But he brings the person who isn't the hardcore golf fan into the game, and that's huge for us on so many different dimensions. So that is one. Two is he brought the cool factor into golf. He's an athlete. He is a transcendent athlete, actually. And he exudes kind of a cool vibe, if you will, and he brought that to golf. So, again, he brought some things to the game that certainly hadn't been part of the game for a long time. Now, going forward, it's true. I mean, I don't count Tiger out, though, by any means, and I don't think we should talk about Tiger in the context that his career is in the back nine. He may be just starting the back nine, but I think he's got some good golf ahead of him. But my point is that his not being as dominant here in the last few years has really opened the door for some other personalities and players to become more prominent, whether it's a Rory McIlroy or a Ricky Fowler or any number of younger players, Jordan Spieth, who are really going to move in and become the next generation of golf. So if you look at golf over a long period of time, which I like to do, we've always had these periods of time where we've had the dominant players and the big personalities, going back to Arnold Palmer, to Jack Nicklaus, to Tom Watson, Greg Norman. And it generally works out that the torch gets passed from generation, or not even generation to generation, but player to player. And I'm very confident the same will be true. Tiger will be certainly a once-in-a-lifetime player and a once-in-a-lifetime changer of the way in which golf's perceived. But I'm very bullish on the future, and I think we have a number of personalities and talented players that will continue to keep the torch burning, so to speak.
Steve, one thing people may not know about golf, and you alluded to it a little bit ago, is how much it generates for charities. $4 billion a year comes from from golf being brought back into our communities. That's more than Major League Baseball, the NBA, NFL, and the NHL combined. Talk about the impact that the golf industry has on all of our communities.
Well, it's tremendous. If you consider the math of how that $4 billion is arrived at, basically we have 15,000 golf courses approximately in the United States. 75% of them, or 12,000, conduct charitable tournaments. On average, each of those facilities conducts 12 a year. So that's 144,000 charitable tournaments a year. They generate on average about $27,000 apiece, and that's the bulk of the $3.9 billion that you make reference to. But here's what's really important about that. Almost all the money that gets generated through golf goes to causes outside of golf. So whether it's the Cancer Society or diabetes or the Humane Society, whatever it is, all very worthy charities, but that money gets generated through golf to these causes that are outside of the game. So we think that's very important. And the other thing that it points out is golf courses really serve as community assets. If you think about it, think of all the other sports or even all the other forms of recreation, and you would be hard-pressed. I don't think you could name another sport that creates so much charitable giving as golf does. And furthermore, the people who play the game are very charitable themselves. And so it's a tremendous story, and it's one that we have to, frankly, do a better job of communicating as an industry.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. We've got our next guest, LeRoy Irvin, hanging on the line. We need to get to LeRoy in just a minute. But, Steve, one more before we let you go. Next Wednesday, May 21st, is the 7th Annual National Golf Day. It'll be held up on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. You, along with many others, are going to be there talking about, the economics of golf, environmental issues, the charitable thing you just talked about, fitness benefits, that sort of thing. Talk about that for a minute before we let you go.
That's a really important day for the golf industry. About 100 or so leaders in the industry will be in Washington. We'll meet with members of Congress. We'll meet with members of the executive branch. We'll meet with leaders of certain of the agencies to carry forward some of the messages you talked about. We'll be carrying forward the economic impact of golf, the charitable impact, the environmental impact, the health and wellness benefits, and the affordability and accessibility of golf. Our ultimate aim is to ensure that laws and regulations that impact the golf industry are fair and are congruent with an industry that generates almost $70 billion a year in economic impact and employs 2 million Americans, creates almost $4 billion in charitable giving, and really is part of our way of life in the United States. And so we're not seeking special treatment, just equal treatment as an industry and the 2 million people who work in it.
Right. That's great stuff. Good luck with that, Steve. Thanks for taking time out of your night to be a part of the show. We need to get you on our sister show, which is next on the tee. Hopefully sometime you can join us there. That's every Saturday morning. Love to talk to you more about the things that you're doing, get into some more things that we just didn't have time to talk to you about. But we appreciate what you're doing for the game of golf, and we hope to get you back on real soon.
Love to do that, and thank you for having me tonight. And just wanted to say thanks to all our servicemen and women around the world who are doing such a great job protecting us. And by the way, golf does a lot for our the men and women in the service as well. We can talk about that another time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Please come back and join us. We'd love to get into that.
Love to do it.
All right. Have a great night, Steve.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, that's some great stuff right there, Ange. There's some more things that we obviously would love the opportunity to talk to Steve about, but there's some great stuff when you think about all the impact that, golf has. And one of the things in the research that I was doing, talked about, thinking about golf as a, for the small businessman. There's a lot in there in the golf courses around the country that are really just small businesses, and I think that's some things that they're going to talk about on Capitol Hill next week.
Yeah, very cool. And I do have to say real quickly, I remember our visit when we went to the Hall of Fame, and he mentioned the replica of the 17th hole. I don't think any of our foursome made one ball on the green that day.
Well, and that, it's not exactly the replica, right? And he alluded to that because it's not a 120-yard shot. It was like, what, 165?
But still, 165, and we couldn't put a ball on the green. Come on. Pathetic.
Yeah, not so good. All right, we've got our next guest, LeRoy Irvin, hanging on the line. We're going to get to him right on the other side of this quick station break.
Hello, this is former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver J.J. Burton, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my friends Chris Mascaro and Angelo Kane on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now joining us on the Kaiven Foods guest line is LeRoy Irvin. LeRoy is from Fort Dix, New Jersey. He was a third-round draft pick by the then Los Angeles Rams out of the University of Kansas. Played in the NFL from 1980 through 1990, and all but one of those seasons was with the Rams. He finished with one season in Detroit. He was selected to back-to-back Pro Bowls in 1985 and 86, named All-Pro 4 times in 81, 82, 85, and 86. He holds the NFL record for most punt return yards in a single game with 207 versus the Falcons back in 1981. And all of that, if all of that wasn't enough, he shares the same birthday with my son, and we're honored to have him as a part of Thursday Night Tailgate. Hi, LeRoy, Chris Mascaro, and Angelo Kane. Thanks for being here.
How you guys doing?
Doing
Oh,
great.
fantastic. How you doing, LeRoy?
I'm doing great, man. Out in Southern California, it's like 100 degrees out here right now.
Sorry to hear that. It's about 60 degrees here in Atlanta, so we're a little cooler and a little more comfortable, apparently.
All right, good. But I know it's good. Hey, in the South, that humidity's going to come pretty soon.
Oh, there's no question. You're exactly right about that. So, LeRoy, I got to understand two things from you right at the top. Hey, where did you get the nickname Iceman, and who the heck talked you guys into doing that video Ram It back in the 80s?
Well, what happened was, Chicago Bears had came out with their little video, and we were getting ready to play them in the NFC Championship game. And so I guess some producers decided that the winner of that game, their video was going to go down in history as being the greatest video ever, in video.
Yeah.
So we got talked into doing that video, and we stayed up all night on the Friday before we left for Chicago. We stayed up about 4 o'clock in the morning doing that video, and I just wish it would never have happened.
I'm watching
and I never received one penny from that video.
Is that right?
And it's caused me all this heartache. Iceman, the Iceman was because I was so cool out on the corner, covering everybody, shutting everybody down.
Hey.
Iceman.
All right. Well, Jim Everett shared that video with me, and Jimmy's joining us later on in the show. But boy, that thing is pure gold. For all the listeners out there, if you haven't seen it, you got to go to YouTube and look up Ram It. Fantastic.
Oh my God, I'm watching it right now. It's hilarious.
So, LeRoy, let's go back to the beginning. You're pretty well traveled. You're from New Jersey. You went to high school down here, right? Augusta, Georgia. Played college ball at Kansas. What took you all over the country?
Well, my father was in the military.
There you go.
I had a lot of stops along the way. I was born in New Jersey. Then we moved to South Carolina. Then we moved to Germany. Then I moved to Tacoma, Washington. Then I moved to Alabama in the 60s, might I add you. And then I moved to Georgia, where I went to high school, and then I got a scholarship to go to the University of Kansas. And then, I got drafted, was very fortunate to be drafted by the Rams. But I tell you what, the military life, I didn't like it at the time, but now I appreciate it because it allowed me to be sociable. It allowed me to learn how to make new friends and fit into different situations and deal with different cultures. I went to school in Tacoma, Washington from the first grade to the 6th grade, and I was the only black person in my whole school during the 60s. Then I got transferred to Alabama, and now I'm in a situation where I'm in a school where it's all blacks and no white. So I think it really helped me learn society and learn how to deal with people.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. My father was climbing the corporate ladder at all when I was growing up. We were moving every 2 or 3 years, and that's a great benefit that that I got out of that as well, is being able to make new friends and adapt to those sort of situations. So I'm right there with you. But why Kansas? If you were you're going to school around here in Augusta, Georgia, how did Kansas become the place to go?
I'm gonna tell you a story. You may not believe this, okay? But I'm gonna be really honest with you tonight.
All right.
Nobody. I was all-state. I had started since a sophomore. I was the CSRA, the Central Savannah River Area Athlete of the Year. I was, third in the state in the 100 and the 220. I averaged almost 7.6 yards a carry. I played defense, but nobody offered me a scholarship. No one.
Wow.
Zero. And so
that's hard to imagine.
My uncle Nathaniel Irvin, who's a pastor over in North Augusta, had a student of his who now was coaching at Appalachian State. And so he told this coach about me. So Appalachian State brought me in for a visit. The coaches at Kansas at the time had just come from Alabama under Bear Bryant. This was their second year coming up at Kansas.
Yeah.
They're from Alabama. And, back in those days, there was no internet, and you had to, beat the ground like you beat the ground. There was no easy way to get connected to all the players like there is right now. So those coaches only knew the Southeast Conference, and they only knew, Georgia, Alabama, all those schools. But there was a guy in my hometown named Mitchell Ferguson, and they came to town to recruit. But the coach at Laney High School told them that Mitchell was still going to go to Alabama. But there was a guy up at Glen Hills High School that you guys might want to talk to. So they rushed up to Glen Hills High School, and my coach, Joe Olive, when they walked in the door, Joe Olive said, well, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get LeRoy. And they said, why? He said, well, Florida wants him, South Carolina wants him, Clemson wants him, Auburn wants him, everybody but Alabama, right? And so they said, well, we really want to get LeRoy to come up here. We really want to get him up here. Can you please get him up here? And I said, well, I'll talk to him. Well, the next day I'm outside playing basketball, and Gail Sayers calls me on the phone and says, LeRoy, calls my mom and says, I want to speak to LeRoy. My name is Gail Sayers from the University of Kansas. And so I'm outside playing basketball. My mom says, hey, Junior. They call me Junior because I'm named after my dad. And they said, hey, there's someone on the line. His name he's from Kansas. He says his name is Gail Sayers. I'm like, bull crap. Gail Sayers is not calling me from Kansas. Who's playing a trick on me? So I go on the phone, and I'm talking to Gail, and he says, well, we want you to come for a visit. I say, then can I sign? He said, well, I want you to see the place. I said, okay, then can I sign? And so when I get to the university, the coach that recruited me said, look, when you go in and talk to Bud Moore, when he asks you who's recruiting you, you go and tell him Florida, Florida State, Clemson, Auburn, all those schools, Georgia. And so I went in and I lied to Bud Moore. The next summer, after I was already at Kansas, the Big 8 magazine came out, and it read, Kansas struck gold when it landed the most recruited back in the South, LeRoy Irvin. So that's how I got to Kansas.
That's a great story. So when you were there, Kansas really struggled. You won 7 games over your last 3 seasons. How'd you stay focused and deal with the losing, particularly seasons like in '78 when you guys won 1-10? It had to be hard coming to practice late those seasons.
Well, especially after I was averaging 15 tackles a game. That was particularly hard. When you're playing games like that and you're losing football games. I always wanted to play in the NFL. And so Kansas was not my destination. It was my pass-through point. I loved playing at KU, but Kansas was my destination, my pass-through point. So I kept focused on being in the NFL, playing in the NFL, working out hard, and just hoping and dreaming. And, hey, my dreams came true.
Right. To your point, you came in, to the NFL with the Rams the year after they lost to the Steelers in the Super Bowl. What was the mood like coming into training camp?
Well, the mood was, well, first of all, let me go back to college real quick. The last thing was,
sure.
I come into Kansas, and I'm supposed to be the most recruited back in the South, but they got about 8 other running backs that they've already recruited that year. I looked over to the defensive side, and I said, wow, there's only 3 cornerbacks over there. I need to go. I can beat those guys out. So I ended up changing over to defense, and that's how I moved from running back to defense.
All right.
When I got to the Rams, I was very blessed, man. To play for Bud Carson, have an opportunity to learn from him. The man who the defensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. To learn from Ron Perry and Pat Thomas, perennial All-Pros, taught me the game. Nolan Cromwell was there, who I played with in college for 1 year. And, and then meeting Johnny Johnson, who came from Texas, and Kirk Collins, who would have been one of the greatest cornerbacks ever had he hadn't died from cancer. I was just very, very lucky. And I was starstruck, to be honest with you. I'm from,
wow,
California. Come on, man. California is not like a normal state. It's like a whole new country. It's like going to Hawaii. You live in Georgia, or you live in Washington, or, wherever you live back east. When you go to California, you're not in the United States anymore. You're in another country. So that's how I felt about it. When I got it, wow, I'm in, Hawaii playing football, in a sense. But it was just mind-boggling, all the stars, Jack Youngblood, Hayden, all, Lawrence McCutcheon, all the guys who I had. I'm a football fan, and I'm partners with Eric Dickerson right now. And Eric always says, I'm too much of a fan. But you know something? I am a fan. And Lawrence McCutcheon, all the guys that I played with, Preston Denard, Vince Ferragamo, Pat Hayden, Cullen Bryant, just those guys, Jack Youngblood, Jim Youngblood, Fred Dreyer. Oh, man, dream come true.
It's funny, coming from a guy who's, moved all over the place and had, learned his people skills, and you finally get somewhere like, L.A., and you're, in shock.
Well, I was just in shock because of the guys, I never thought I'd be playing with Wendell Tyler or you playing again with Nolan Cromwell or playing on Monday Night Football or having Howard Cosell interview me, ask me questions about the game, and and just having to cover Drew Pearson, who I was a Cowboy fan in college, and Drew Pearson, I always wanted him to beat the DBs, always. And now I find myself as a rookie playing against Drew Pearson in the playoffs. and Bud, I remember Bud Carson telling me, slap me upside my head with my helmet. I said, "Wake up! You're not watching TV anymore."
So who was the guy you had the hardest time defending? Was it Drew or somebody else?
The hardest guy, and I went to Jerry Rice's Hall of Fame induction party, and I told Jerry, he said, "What are you doing in here?" I said, "How'd you get in here?" I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I couldn't have contributed more." Jerry only caught 1 touchdown pass on me in my whole career covering Jerry. He's the greatest receiver ever. Let's don't get it twisted. But the guy I had the most problems with was Dwight Clark.
Really? Wow.
And Dwight Clark used to beat me inside the 20 every time almost. 1 touchdown a game, guaranteed. And I had problems. Some seasons I would give up 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them would be to Dwight Clark.
Was it his size?
Well, I don't know, but I had a chance to talk to the late Bill Walsh one time. Because I talked to Bill Walsh, Montana, and I talked to Clark, trying to figure out, was I just crazy or what? So, anyway, I talked to Bill Walsh, and I'm asking him, what was the situation? Why would they ever throw a slant on me and a corner on me, and it was almost like they read me or something? Bill said, "Oh, no. We just had the play call." I'm thinking, wow. Oh, damn. You're smart, too. Had to play calls. I didn't even know what I was going to do, and you had to play calls. And then I talked to Montana, and he said, well, we always noticed you used to always peak. And so, Dwight knew when you were peaking. And I said, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then I talked to Dwight Clark, and Dwight Clark said, oh, no, it was a read all the way. Whatever you jumped, I redirected and ran the other thing. And so they all gave me 3 different answers, so I don't know what the truth is, but Dwight Clark was the toughest guy I ever covered.
That's strategy right there, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm thinking about all these young kids that are, just being drafted now, and the NFL now is more of a business than ever, way more than it was when you were playing. So being there and having experienced it, what would be the biggest or most important advice you would offer to these rookies coming into the league now?
Okay, first of all, you're not a businessman. So don't start rolling around like you're a businessman. Live on what a normal person could possibly live on, which is about $60,000, $70,000 a year. Live on that. Get used to living on that situation. Save your money, okay? I'm not saying put it in the bank, but just don't be getting involved in business ventures, things that are very risky that you don't know nothing about. Take your time, save your money, learn, eventually business and things like that, and then start working on a second career. Get involved in a second career right now so you can, have your second career when your game is over. And most of these guys only play 3.8 years. They live on $300,000 a year, and then before you know it, they're out of the league, and now they're wondering where they're going to get $300,000 at to live on. So that's what I would say. Just live in your means.
LeRoy, we've got our next guest. We've got our next guest, Shawn Springs, hanging on the line. Need to get to him. Just a couple more before we let you go. I mentioned at the top Jim Everett is going to be joining us here in a little bit. He's a really great friend of ours. But give us your best Jim Everett memory.
Well, it had to be on the Jim Rome show. I was supposed to go on after Jim, but they got in a scuffle, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to go on after that. I had to stick with my boy Jim, but that was my greatest Jim Everett story. But I tell you what, Jim Everett, man, one of the great quarterbacks of our time. What a great guy, great arm, just a great quarterback, and we wouldn't have won all those games had we not had Jim.
Yeah. Let's be honest, that wasn't even a scuffle, by the way.
Well, I thought they were faking at first. And so I saw everybody run down to the stage. It looked like they were like wrestling. Like I'm thinking, if you're gonna fight somebody, throw a punch, bam, left hand, whoa.
Right.
LeRoy, you mentioned.
I think Jim.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
I said I was thinking Jim Everett was probably thinking, maybe if I hit him, then my the $1.1 million I'm making might be half his. So I better not hit him.
Right. So one last one before we let you go, LeRoy. I know you talked about being in some business ventures with Eric Dickerson. I think you're doing some things with Vince Ferragamo as well, but you do a lot for charity. Talk about what you're doing there.
Well, Eric Dickerson and I, we do a free football camp at Camp Pendleton every summer for the kids of the Marine Corps, men and women who risk their lives for us, every day. And we go out in the community and we raise money. We get toys and gifts and stuff, and we get a bunch of our friends to come out to the football camp and cheer camp. We have 150 boys, 50 girls. We get a lot of great guys coming out, a lot of great gifts. And that's, we just wanted to give back to those men and women because I'm one of those kids who love football, but no one ever came on the base to show me how to play football. No one ever seemed like they cared about us. And so I just want these kids to know that we actually care about them, and we're going to do this, and we're going to keep on doing this to the day we die.
That's fantastic. Good for you. And, our show is broadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network, so that means a lot.
And tell Shawn Springs, I was a big fan of his, man. Big fan of Shawn Springs. What a great player he was.
All right, we'll pass that along. I'm sure he can hear. He's probably listening on off the air. But LeRoy, thank you so much for taking time out of your night. We hope you'll come back and join us again sometime. You're fantastic. Love your stories. It'd be great to have you back on with us.
I will. Let me know, Chris and Angelo. You guys have fun, man. Take care.
All right, have a great night, LeRoy. All the best to your family.
All right, bye.
Good night. Great stuff. I bet you he's got 1,000 more great stories as well, Ange.
Oh, absolutely, and I will be listening in when you have him on again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got Shawn Springs hanging on the line. We're going to get to him right on the other side of this quick commercial break.
Add great flavor to your next tailgate party with Kyvan Salsas. Former NFL tight end Reggie Kelly created these salsas for dipping chips and much more. In hot and mild flavors, Kyvan Salsas make a great marinade. They are terrific in meatloaf and are super toppers for everything from baked potatoes to scrambled eggs. It's a great ingredient to enjoy in a variety of family favorite meals. And some people say Kyvan Salsa is a meal to itself. With all the possibilities, Kyvan is truly salsa with soul. Kyvan salsas are also made from natural ingredients, and they are preservative-free. So look for Kyvan, that's K-Y-V-A-N, at area Walmart stores or online. Click on the Kyvan logo on our website to check retail and online locations. More information at Kyvan82.com. Are you suffering from chronic pain in your shoulders, hips, knees, or wrists? Tired of living life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. At Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, Dr. Candelora and his fine staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and attention to detail will ensure you will be enjoying life again and feeling invincible in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora and Coastal Orthopedics have been specializing in joint replacement, arthritis, and osteoporosis care, as well as pediatric and adult general orthopedics. Visit us on the web, www.bone-dr.com, or call our Newport Richey office just north of Tampa at 727-848-1417. Proud sponsors of Mike Ditka's The Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
This is former Patriots running back Tony Collins, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my friends Chris Mascaro and Angelo Kane on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Shawn Springs. Shawn is from Williamsburg, Virginia. He was a first-round draft pick, the number 3 selection overall by the Seattle Seahawks in 1997 out of Ohio State, where he was a consensus All-American in 1996. He was also the Big Ten Player of the Year that season. Played defensive back in the NFL from 1997 to 2009 for the Seahawks, Redskins, and Patriots. He was named to the Pro Bowl in 1998. Over the course of his career, he had 714 tackles, 33 interceptions, 2 of which he returned for touchdowns, 6 fumble recoveries, returned one of those for a touchdown. Cowboy fans will remember his father fondly, Ron Springs, who was an outstanding running back for Dallas and Tampa for 8 seasons. And we are honored to have Shawn as part of the show tonight. Shawn, Chris Mascaro, Angelo Kane, thanks for joining us.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing, man? You might hear a little noise in the background. I'm supporting my home team, the Washington Wizards, as they get beat by the Pacers right now. But I'm at the game. How you guys doing?
Oh, fantastic.
Doing good.
Thanks for stepping away for a minute, Shawn. We appreciate it. So, Shawn, you're from Williamsburg, Virginia. So who'd you grow up rooting for? Who was the team for you?
Well, you know, my dad playing for the Cowboys, I really had no choice. You know, Virginia is Redskins territory, but with my dad playing for the Cowboys, I pretty much woke up with Cowboys pajamas and my phone in my house was a helmet with a Cowboy star on it, and
nice.
So I had no choice. Tony Dorsett was like my dad's best friend over the house all the time. So
very nice.
You know,
good for you.
And as I got older, I became a fan of the game. That guy LeRoy Irvin is a great guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's
he's
great football player.
Yeah, yes, he was. He's right up there with the Hall of Fame. God bless him.
Yeah. So
Shawn,
awesome.
you, like your dad, you were a standout running back, but also played defensive back in high school. So I'm sure there were colleges lined up at the door trying to get your services. Your father being, having played at Ohio State, was there anyone else even in the conversation besides Ohio State?
Well, you never believe. I have to tell you a quick story. I was supposed to sign with the University of Michigan, believe it or not.
Get out of town.
Coach Gary Moeller. Y'all might remember that name, Coach Gary Moeller.
Yeah.
And he was flying down to sign me, and the night before, my dad says he gets his call from Ohio State. He says, "Man, let's go out to dinner." And we decided to go out to dinner. And when we get home, everybody gets out of the car. My dad said, "Hey, wait back, I got to tell you something." He said, "Where are you thinking about going?" I said, "I'm probably going to sign with Michigan tomorrow." He said, "If you sign with Michigan, you don't have to worry about coming in this house." So, that's how I ended up at Ohio State.
Yeah, that's plausible. I have no doubt that actually happened.
So that's how I ended up at Ohio State.
In 95, you had a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown against Boston College. For guys that, live vicariously through those sorts of things and get excited watching those things happen, what's it like when you actually break into the clear and you know you're not going to get caught by anybody and you're taking this thing to the house?
Well, first of all, I ran all the way across the field. I had some great blocking. But when I got down the sideline, I was like, please don't let me trip and fall. I got to make it home because I would never let me down. Eddie George and Terry Glenn and all the great Ohio State guys, they would have teased me. So I was just saying, just don't let me get caught because they're going to talk about how slow I am and let me make it down the sideline without falling. So I was just running hard, Those are the good days.
No doubt. A couple years later, I saw a 2009 poll that a Columbus, Ohio TV station did where they ranked the 10 best defensive backs in Ohio State history. Had you ranked number 3 behind Jack Tatum and Michael Doss. You're also named to Ohio State's All-Century team. What does that level of respect and recognition mean to you?
Well, I'm just excited. Excuse me, noise. I'm just excited to be part of a great tradition, a great school like Ohio State. A lot of great players. Obviously, Jack Tatum and Mike Doss were all Americans and great players. So I'm just excited that I was considered to be. It was other guys who could have been in him like that I've had in me that I thought were great standout players at Ohio State. So it was a privilege and honor. And all I know is when I wore the scarlet and gray, I just tried to do my best and do my part and make my school and university proud.
Yeah, and you certainly did that. We're a week removed from the draft now, Shawn. You were selected number 3 overall. What was that night like for you?
Oh, it was a good night. I thought I was going to go to second pick to Oakland. Al Davis, he was on the phone and said, I'm going to take you or Darrell Russell, but one of you guys going to have to take this deal that I want you to take. And the deal was you weren't going to get a signing bonus. So I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I need to buy my mom a house. But I really wanted to go to Oakland. I thought that was a home for me, the history of the Raiders and the defensive back. I really wanted to go to Oakland, but I ended up in Seattle, and it's probably one of the best things that have ever happened to me. And Mr. Allen, who bought the team that year, drafted me, and the Seahawks been going uphill since then. So the Seahawks been doing great since then. So I love it.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, that night, your draft night, it was a great night for Ohio State, right? Your teammate Orlando Pace went number 1 overall. Your fellow defensive backs, Rob Kelly, he went in the second round. You had Ty Howard, also got picked in the middle of the third round. How great was it to actually go into the NFL right along with your peers?
Well, we had the opportunity to see a couple guys before us a year before, Eddie George and Terry Glenn and Ricky Dudley, and those guys went. And then I think Big Daddy a couple years before that. So we kind of had an opportunity to see some of the guys that we played with in college go to the NFL, and then for it finally be the opportunity for me and Orlando and Mike Vrabel and some of those guys and Rob Kelly and Ty Howard to make it. It was just like, wow, it's finally our time, and right. It was exciting, man. And we had a great relationship, and even when we played in the pros, all the Buckeyes and all the Ohio State guys kind of had like this pact, this thing, we had like a look, fellow Buckeyes,
So, Shawn, being such a high draft pick, did you feel the extra pressure from that? I mean, because weren't you being proclaimed as like the savior for the team at the time?
Yeah, they built this huge campaign around me, so so there was a little pressure coming in because Mr. Allen had just bought the team. I don't know if you guys remember, they were thinking about moving the Seahawks down to L.A. They were actually practicing in Anaheim during the draft, and so they said, well, we got to get some exciting players. One of the other players that was drafted with me, I'm congratulating my guy Walter Jones, who's going into the Hall of Fame this year. Walter was the sixth pick. I was the third pick, and they kind of booked the stage. Hey, we got two solid guys, two young players that we're going to build around. And it was a lot of pressure. You had to go perform, but I was up for the challenge.
Oh, yeah, you certainly were.
Indeed,
I mean, you made an impact very quickly. Second season, 7 interceptions, a couple of touchdowns. What was the transition like for you? I mean, everybody that we talk to always says that the speed of the game is the biggest thing. Was it the same for you? Well, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't really, because you got to understand my receivers in college were Joey Galloway and Terry Glenn. The tight end was Ricky Dudley. So for me, I was used to going through like tremendous speed with Joey running a 4-1 and Terry Glenn, and those guys were super, super fast. So I think for me, it was just making all the adjustments. Because when I was at Ohio State, my coach was like, hey, Lovie Smith was like, hey, Shawn, you got him to call it today. I said, oh, I can do that, Coach. So you telling me I got number 12 or number 18 or 25 or whatever the number is? I got him. I can do it. And then when you get to the NFL level, you have to make adjustments. And, you obviously can't just play man-on-man the whole time. So there's some things that you have to do. Yeah, well, and you came into the league a very confident player. Had a little bit of swagger to your game. A lot of it. Yeah, a lot of it. And, so, do you have any advice for those very confident players like a Johnny Manziel who have been in the spotlight for a while already and have been told by so many people how special he is? Right. I think for me, if I had to tell Johnny, and the reason why I had so much confidence is because of my work ethic, and I believe Johnny has been, he got a little bit of trouble at Texas A&M, but for the most part, winning the Heisman when he did, and some of the pressure that he faced coming back, the adversity he faced coming back the next year, I thought he handled it pretty well, and I think he did a great job in the NFL. The bottom line is he hasn't done anything in the NFL, so he's going to have to work down his company. You can have swagger when you can go produce. But I would tell Johnny Football and any young player in the league, it's good to have confidence, but you got to produce, and you got to make plays when you get into the NFL. So that's what you have to do. Yeah, and are you buying any of this stuff that there's any chance that he's a backup at the beginning of the season? Well, I played with Hoyer, and hopefully he's recovering from this. Brian Hoyer, we were teammates in New England, pretty good player from Michigan State. I think it's going to be competitive. I think with a new coaching staff, and I know they drafted Johnny 22nd overall pick, but there's a time also at one point in the league where quarterbacks had to wait their turn and kind of learn a little bit of season. I think Blake Bortles, I think at Jacksonville, I said he's not going to play for the first year. So that could happen with Johnny Football. But I will tell you, I believe the kid is going to be amazing in the NFL. I think he's going to be unreal. So I'm excited about to see what he's going to look like in the NFL. Yeah, I hope he starts week 1 because I'm not going to be able to handle any more Johnny Manziel watches than the next month that we got. Hey, that's going to be a Johnny Football watch. That'd be a lot of pressure having behind you. It's already started. It's ridiculous. You went through some injury-plagued seasons. Is there anything that you'd like people to know that they might not already know about players who struggle with injuries? Everybody gets down on them so much. Well, I think the thing is, if you play hard, it's going to happen in the NFL. And sometimes it just happens to some guys more than others. But, at the end of the day, you just got to go out there. For me, I just wanted to go out there and play hard as I could every time. And it happens, but you got to be a professional. You got to rehab, take care of your body. And a lot of water, a lot of flexibility, and a lot of good off-season therapy and workouts.
Shawn, a couple more before we let you run. One, you got to play with a good friend of ours, Mark Collins, back in 1998, who actually also got to play against your dad.
I love Mark
playing
Collins,
with Mark.
man. That's my boy. That's my boy, Mark Collins. Old school. I love old school. Good guy, man.
Yeah,
Mark will be in practice. Mark will be in practice. Mark will be in practice. He's been stretched and warmed up. And he was stretched for like 2 hours and go out there at 3 miles per hour. I said, Mark, why you stretch so long and you moving like 3 miles an hour, man? Don't worry about it, young fella. I don't have to do a lot of movement. I know where the ball's going to be. And sure enough, he would be in the right place at the right time. I love playing with Mark.
Yeah, he's a great friend of ours. We love Mark as well. Before we let you go, Shawn, I know you have a company that's been working on some new, helmet technology. Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the last 3 years, me and my partners, we've been, my team of engineers, we've been developing the helmet technology, which obviously can be used in football helmets, which is near and dear to me, and bicycles, motorcycles, even military helmets. And it's exciting, with the technology we develop and working very close with the Professor Duma and those guys at Virginia Tech and Air Star Rating and some of the work that they've been doing, and also working with Ohio State in developing the technology and patterns. So hopefully you will see it on the market, and our first product will probably be a Cannondale bike helmet. So it'll be exciting to see the technology pretty soon.
Very good. If folks want to find out and get more information about that and what you're doing, how can they find you on social media, and do you have a site that talks about your helmet technology?
We've been in the stealth mode for the last couple years, but you can look up WinPack. We have some information on the website that's coming up over the next month that with some videos and different things on technology, and you get to see some exciting stuff. I think we've been working on something with a major network that you can get to see pretty soon over the next 6 to 8 months. Or something should be coming out. I can't tell you right now. It's kind of a surprise, but you'll see that on TV, so It's kind of exciting.
All right. Very good.
All right.
Well, yeah, Shawn, thank you so much for taking time out of your night and away from the game.
Guys,
I hope you come back sometime. You're fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Shawn. All the best.
All right.
Good night. Wow. Great stories there. And holy cow, he was fantastic. We got to get Shawn Springs back on again sometime. All right. Before we get to our next guest, who is the fantastic Jim Everett, I want to let folks know, typically at the top of the show, we talk about our great friend Renee Shaw at Integrated Play. With everything going on with Ange, put it off a little bit, but I want to make sure that we let you folks know what a great person, what a great organization Integrated Play is. Check out what Renee's got going on by going to integratedplay.org. Like I say every week on this show, we all want to do business and take advice from someone that we trust and who actually has our best interest at heart. Well, you won't find someone who fits that description better than Renee Shaw at Integrated Play. She's smart, she's talented, the kind of person you're going to want to do business with. She's doing great things, above and beyond things for some of our guests who have been in transition from being pro athletes and are now getting into the job market. I'm telling you, folks, she's just the best. There isn't another way to describe her. If you work with her for 2 minutes, you're going to understand why we say that every single week on this show. If you're an athlete or anybody in the job market, do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be very glad you did. Go to integratedplay.org online. Give her a follow on Twitter at IntegratedPlay as well. And we're going to get to our friend Jim Everett right on the other side of this quick station break.
Hi, this is Jim Everett, former Rams All-Pro quarterback. And you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my buddies Chris and Angelo, right here on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Enjoy.
Hey, how about that? An announcement from Jim Everett. Now joining us on the Dive and Food guest line is James Samuel Everett III. And like we say before every one of his appearances, the things that the opinions expressed by Jim Everett are not those of Chris Mascaro, Angelo Kane, or our new coach Bob Lazzari, or anyone affiliated with Thursday Night Tailgate. Jimmy, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Well, guys, I usually come on board upbeat. Usually have a bunch of stories for you, but, I'm kind of mourning right now.
I'm feeling you. I got the Kleenex in hand.
What are we going to do without Ange on board? What's going to happen? What are we going to do here? Ange?
You're going to cry. That's what you're going to do, Jimmy. You're going to cry. It's my party, and you will cry if I want you to.
And but for the years we've got to poke fun, we've got to do all this stuff, and now you're going to be poking canvas. I mean, what the heck is going on?
Well, I got to make a living, Jimmy. What can I say? I have the world is my oyster, and I must see what's out there.
Well, you know what? I think that to all of us that know you, and maybe some that don't, that the idea of following your dream, I think, is kind of the pinnacle. And you've talked to a bunch of athletes, a bunch of guys that enjoyed following their dreams and chasing the ball and hitting and doing all that stuff. And I'd really admire you for, saying, hey, this is where I'm going to concentrate my energy. And I kudos to you. I usually come here with, some good stuff and funny stuff. And I'm not done yet. Don't think I am, but I do want to be.
I know this isn't the end of your rant, but I appreciate the praise and the encouragement. It's been an awesome run. I've got to do some great interviews with guys like you and so many other guys, and it's something I never thought I would do. But I believe that this life, you got to do a little bit of everything, at least try, so you don't have that question. Hey, I wonder what would have happened if. And so It's been a great run, man. So.
Well, Ange, you were the perfect guy. You had the perfect face for radio. So, what the heck?
I had the perfect technology for radio.
Well, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Let's face it. I was bringing the show down. It was time for me to go. Chris couldn't handle it anymore.
Oh, no, you lifted him up. Trust me, Chris is a sidekick. He's lost right now, I guarantee you.
There you go.
There's no question.
Yeah. And then Bob, is Bob even close around these days? Where is Bob these days?
Bob is actually up in he's in Eastern Connecticut, and he'll jump in starting next week. But when he comes on, when you come on your first visit with Bob, we're gonna have to be kinder, gentler, Jim. You got to break Bob in.
Well, I know
Stewie may throw him over the edge.
Well, this is your kind of last hurrah here. I'm sure you're going to come back and give us a piece of your mind here and there, and of course I'm going to be around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be staying here and heckling you guys because that's my job. But is there something about Bob you want to tell me, Ange, that I really need to take the ball and run with?
Well, he's different than I am. I'll say that, but he's a great guy. He's definitely sports-minded. He covers so much stuff. And but like Chris says, this is going to be a little bit of a process, and I'll do all I can. I'm available for counsel, all the time, and it's going to be a process, but he'll be just fine, and I'm sure he will. After a few times, he will, acclimate himself to you or a giant bottle of vodka, one of the two.
Hey, Ange, I'm really asking this. Can he handle it? Can he handle some of the grief we're going to give him?
I would think so. He's been doing sports for a long time. He knows what comes with sports, right?
Okay. Yeah, he could. Yeah, some guys that have those helmets that were just being advertised. We needed some of those, for gosh sake, right? We were during a generation where we were playing with our ear holes, looking at our ear holes, and they wonder why the heck we're so mental, right?
Oh my God.
So yeah.
Hey,
so Jim,
this show, this show's about you, but it's my show right now, so be quiet. All right.
Yeah, it's always about Jim Everett. That's what I've learned. If I've learned one thing over the past 3 years, is the show about anything but Jim Everett? No.
Hey, no, this is about Ange. Ange, your painting. Now, I've got to give you kudos also on Bruce Smith. That painting, it looks so realistic. It gives me nightmares. Yeah. That dude was a monster. He was unbelievable.
Well, as I told you in an email, maybe there's going to be a point where I'm going to have to do some sort of, NFL history thing and do something that has you and Flipper with the yardage and that big game. I don't know. Maybe that's.
Hey, but if you do that, make sure that the picture has him with the darn game ball in the end of it. Because remember, he was complaining about not getting the game ball.
Oh, please! I did all I could to get him that ball back.
I know.
Sent him a nerf. I don't know why.
I'm gonna have to put an asterisk at the bottom of it.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyways, I got to tell you that Bruce Smith is something else. But we had a center named Bern Brostek. He was a rookie year. Bruce would jump around the line because, you followed your guys up there, and they were really, really good during those years.
Right.
Bruce Smith decided he timed the snap of the ball. I get the ball. He hurdles Bern Brostek, hurdles him before Bern gets his hands up. And Bruce is on me. Well, I'm hardly even in my back pedal. He just put me to the ground. I'm like
270,
oh my God.
right? He was like 270, almost 300 at points in his career. He was so quick off the line. It was amazing.
Oh, he'd make the Tooth Fairy look small or look slow. Jesus Christ. And you've seen the Tooth Fairy lately. My goodness. Anyways, he was a player, and he was a guy that he was good. But when I saw that picture, you do some other good artwork, and I really really look forward to seeing some of your stuff. Will you post some of it on the site so we can continue to look at it and make it some more friendlier guys though?
I will do what I can just for you. You've endeared yourself to me.
There you go. So Jim, you sort of started this whole little controversy with us for the Ram It video, and as you know, LeRoy Irvin was on a little while ago. And,
yes, I heard.
So
no, that's not LeRoy Irvin. That's the Iceman for you, sir.
Yeah, my bad. So Ice was on the show earlier and talked about it. Now, how did you avoid being in this video?
Well, I was still in college.
Oh, is that right?
You realize that was the year Dieter Brock played the Bears and they got beat in the playoffs.
Right. That was Dieter Brock.
And then they had that cool. I think they were still using VHS or some. VHS was competing against Sony to see which one could play the best tape. But anyways, they came out with that video, and then everyone else wanted to copy it. And what the heck is Ram It? Really, Ram It? Really?
Oh my God! Yeah, it was. I was watching it during the interview. I've never seen it before. Oh my God, that's embarrassing.
Hey, we went back. All of us Hall of Famers went back to St. Louis, watched the San Francisco game this year, and we were talking to about 400 fans on the stands. It was Kurt Warner, a bunch of us guys. It was hilarious. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, they put the screen down, and what do they do? Because I'm sitting next to Jackie Slater and Dennis Harris.
No, they
played the Ram It. Oh, that was the first time I've seen it too.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah, and Nolan Cromwell and. He's got the rhythm of I don't know what. But anyways, these guys, it was incredible. But LeRoy during the whole time was just smiling, loving it, and that's just the kind of guy LeRoy is. And boy, LeRoy left the Rams in 1989, and we so dearly missed his shutdown corner ability. All those years him shutting down Jerry Rice and holding him to no yards. Okay, not really, but anyways, on that part, but But he did a great job. And when he left, we really never had a corner like him again, during my tenure there. But anyways, but that's LeRoy. And LeRoy's smiling. He could be in the middle of the game. He's smiling. That's just LeRoy, and he's still doing it today. And I know he's been through some, trial times and hard times and good times, and the dude's smiling through it all. It's amazing. I had a chance to meet his son, LeRoy III, and what a great kid he is. Really looks after Dad. I'm really proud of him.
That's great. So we asked LeRoy what his favorite Jim Everett memory was, and he said, "Well,
I heard it.
The Jim Rome piece, right? So little known, right? He was supposed to go on Rome after you, right? And clearly there was no show after that."
Yeah, there was no show for Jimmy Rome for 6 months after that. But anyways, he came back and he proved everybody else wrong, and he's living fat and large, and has a show where he has smoke and fire on it and stuff. But good for him. But yeah, that was a good point, and LeRoy did make a good point. It did cross my mind that a possible punch could land. In the wrong spot there.
It's always about the money. It's always the damn money.
Well, it was a prideful thing at that point. It's like you get pushed to some limit, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to hurt the guy, but you know what? Enough's enough. But
right.
some great things came about it. Matter of fact, I get to tweet quite a bit to Chris Everett, and she still doesn't understand it. But anyway, we've become friends, and over the internet and the whole thing, and it's quite interesting how things play out.
So Jimmy, we're a week removed from the draft. Just curious to get your thoughts on what you saw, and did anything surprise you, and how do you think the Rams actually fared?
I thought the Rams did a really good job in the draft for picking guys that I thought were of the best value for the pick, if that makes sense. I mean, for them to get another defensive tackle at that pick, I mean, they're talking about feeding the lion. Holy cow. But, in that division, they got to get after it in defense. But, I think the guard, good pick. I think the defensive tackle, best value. I thought they did a good job moving down. I still think New England getting Garoppolo is a steal. I mean, how these guys end up, I do. I totally think that's a steal. I think that will be one of the steals of the draft. And, I mean, I think you're seeing here's a kid, and I think that, I thought he was first-round talent. I didn't think he was at the top, but I thought he was first-round talent, and he's going to go to Belichick's offense. I mean, what a perfect situation for the kid.
If he gets to play.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's going to get the play right away, and he shouldn't. I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of rookies that can walk in, and even down in Jacksonville, Bortles, I think he's going to be thrown in the fire with some rookie receivers, and they're going to have their hands full just getting things rolling. But Troy Aikman started out 1-15, and then all of a sudden they came on. So Bortles is going to go through.
They brought talent in too, though. I mean, Bortles has absolutely nothing to work with.
Well, I'm not gonna make a comment on nothing. I mean, the guys every guy in the NFL, trust me, deserves to be there. These guys are the best guys. Now, are they all Jerry Rice? No, but they are good. Even the guys that are 20th best at the position are really, really good. So. It's just a matter of them coming together. But it is a rookie quarterback. He is a raw talent. So I think Bridgewater kind of is a interesting pick at down at the end of that round. I don't think he's ready to go right away, and I think Vikings need somebody ready to go. Physically, he reminds me a lot of a guy like Aaron Rodgers who needs to fill out because he's built a little bit more like a receiver than he is, And then the same thing was Aaron Rodgers. He came in kind of, thin and, had time to grow behind, the famous Brett Favre. But I don't think Bridgewater's going to have that luxury. But, I think it's a good draft. Now, hey, how about guys? You're facing the Texans, and you got JJ and the big clown possibly rushing on the same side. What the heck?
Yeah, I mean, if all the red flags, turn green and there's no issues with him, and he plays the way his reputation has him, it's going to be amazing. But when is a red flag not a red flag, though? I mean, there's my Bills drafted a couple of guys that got red flags all over them. When do you take those seriously? Is that just stuff that they throw in there just to make it interesting?
Are you talking about the red flag they had on Jim Kelly? Are you talking about that one? Hey, how about the red flag they had on Thurman Thomas? How about him?
Oh, God. His leg was torn up. And we just drafted some kid that, fell in the draft because of, knee issues and stuff. So when are those red flags not red flags?
How about the red flag on Dan Marino?
Oh, yeah, he was, big red flag. So, all right, so you're basically saying there's no red flag.
No, what I'm saying is there's college guys that max out. There's guys in high school that max out. The draft is about projecting where the guy is when he's 24, 26, 28. I mean, that's what you're trying to project. And I'm not saying it always works. It doesn't, because some guys decide, not to, like, for example, I think Flipper Anderson had Jerry Rice ability. I think Flipper Anderson had all the ability to make the Hall of Fame. But I saw the way the work ethic that Jerry Rice did, and that's different. So I don't know how you measure those things. And I'm not saying Flipper did get injured, so I'm not picking on him, but I'm just saying here's two great guys coming out. But then you've got different ethics, or even a Peyton Manning who just lives and breathes football. I mean, that's different than the Ryan Leaf that might have been drafted right after him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
It's all about projection, and they think that Clowney will be a pro. And, I mean, you just don't see those freak athletes like that very often. You really don't, and it'd be hard to pass them up. And I thought if they did pass them up, I know the Rams wouldn't have passed them up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. Going back to your former Rams, they picked up Michael Sam in 7th round. This is the kid that was the SEC, the junior NFL player of the year, basically, on defense, and he's in the 7th round. Why do you think he fell so much? If he's playing in
It's not just him. It's not just him. This was and I talked about this earlier, and I think we talked about it in the last show I was on. This was one of the deepest drafts that we've seen in a long time. I think we're going to see 5th, 6th, and 7th round guys have the ability to be longtime NFL starters. I mean, the talent in this draft, and that's why I thought the teams that had the most picks were going to be able to help their teams the most. And here's the 49ers, who are already a good football team. I mean, they took the draft to a new level. I mean, they kind of reminded me of the Ophers on the in our fantasy football league. They were, that Team Stewie runs.
Did they get Trent too?
What's that?
Did they get Trent Richardson too?
Did they get? Yeah, they didn't. No, they traded him out, right? No, but I like the running back they got up there. Oh my gosh! But I also like the running back that the Rams got, that Trey Martin. So, anyways, I like what San Francisco did, just because they had the numbers to be able to draft in such a deep draft. Now, people could kind of make the issue of sexuality in the NFL, or they can make the issue of race in the NFL, or they can make the issue of handicaps in the NFL, or red flags in the NFL, whatever you want to do. The guy's a player, and there's some guys that will make clubs that didn't get drafted. So,
right.
I think it's fortunate that he got drafted. I think it's a lifelong dream for any one of these guys to get drafted, 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, whatever. They're drafted. They're on the team. Now it's up to them. It's all equal now to go beat the guy out that may be ahead of them, at least on paper.
Yeah, right. Jim, I know it's asking you to be brief is like asking Rusty Hilger to calm down, but I need a few extra minutes with Dan tonight to send my boy off. But any final words you'd like to give to our boy before we let him go?
And, dude, there's a lot of love for you. I know you may be painting Mount Rushmore, or you may be painting whatever you may do. Just know that you're loved by a community that I think you started a great show. I think you're part of a very, very good thing, a pioneer as far as kind of getting to the stories of some of the guys that played. And dude, good luck. We do want to hear from you, and I hope you stay in the fantasy football league so the Ophers can continue to be number one, because your picks are so good.
I will absolutely honor your wishes, Jim. And thanks for that. I appreciate it. And it's been an absolute joy to be able to chat with you, banter with you, joke with you, and all that good stuff we've done over the past few years.
Papa Ange, love you, baby. Thanks.
All right. Take it easy, Jim.
Take care, Jimmy.
All right, good. See you. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night. You can follow him on Twitter at Jim_Everett. Nothing like him.
What a cat.
All right, well, my friend, this is it. The last time you're going to hear. Great job out of you tonight, as always.
Oh, you're not going to ever tell me that again?
No, never.
Oh.
That's it. This is it. Any final words before we put a bow on this show?
I can do it in our send-off, but basically, I just want to thank all the guests for making this whole podcasting venture an enjoyable and informative journey for me. It's been an honor to chat with everybody. I mean, I learned quite a lot that these inside stories and learn about the guys off the field, and it just puts a whole new perspective on the sport. So very glad that I did it, and I just appreciate the opportunity to do it. It's been a blast doing it with you, and we've had a lot of fun, and it's still going to continue to be great, just a little different. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Well, it's been an incredible honor sharing this platform with you over the last now 137 episodes. I've enjoyed every single second of it. We took an idea about doing a show, like buddies who chat on the phone every Monday morning about the games from Sunday, and we made it a reality. Somehow we got LaVon Kirkland, then Rocky Blyer, followed by Blaine, Bishop, and Anthony Beck to join us those first 4 weeks. And a few months later, the show grew, in popularity, and we had to, what we called supersize the show to 90 minutes, and we got 2 guests to join us each week. Then a few weeks later, we got 3 guests, and then, TNT became a 2-hour show with 4 guests, and then 5, and we became, booked 3 months in advance, and we grew it to land a couple of sponsors, followed, by the chance to be, here now on Armed Forces Radio, and partnering with people at, Last Word on Sports, and people can find our show now on TuneIn.com and download it on iTunes and on Spreaker and on Player.fm, Stitcher, Flickr, places all over the internet. It's been an absolute amazing ride, and I'm so glad I got to do it with you. I'll miss having you here with me every Thursday night. The show is going to go on, like you said, and Bob's going to be fantastic. We love Bob, and he's been a part of, the TNT family since very early on, but it's not going to be you. So many of the former players that we've had the privilege of talking to, to say what they miss about the game, and being what they've told us is, being with the guys in the locker room. I'm going to miss the preparation and the phone calls during the week and the excitement when we added a new rubber band, like we talk about. As we built the show, we talk about it's adding a rubber band. It's sort of our metaphor for how the show, has grown. Miss the banter that we have, and breaking down the show afterwards and lamenting the mistakes that we made during the show, or the excitement that we had because that episode was so much fun to do. But sum it up by saying I'm going to miss doing this with you every week. That I wish you all the success in the world and your artwork, and people who haven't seen it, like Jim said, you need to go check it out at angelokane.com. It's fantastic stuff. But I thank you for being a great partner, a great friend, and building a wonderful show that we've done for the last 2 3/4 years. You've been the best, my friend.
I appreciate it, and I'll be on the other side of the microphone, and hey, it's not the last you'll ever hear from me. We'll still banter. It'll just be off the air.
Indeed. All right, so next week in our first show in the post-Angelo Kane era, Bob Lazari and I are going to welcome 4 TNT alumni members back to the show, plus we'll have one fantastic new guest. First up is going to be current CFL free agent linebacker Robert McEwen. Robert has been one of the leading tacklers in the CFL for the last few seasons. Joined us last year, and we're looking forward to catching up with him. Our rookie is going to be former Vikings and Ravens Pro Bowl center Matt Burke. He'll be with us. Our friend and former Eagles wide receiver Vince Papale is going to be back here. You may recall that they did a movie called Invincible starring Mark Wahlberg about how Vince made it into the NFL. He joined us last year as well, so it'll be great having him back here with us. Then former Bears and Panthers wide receiver Muhsin Muhammad and former Lions kicker Eddie Murray will be here. Now, Moose and Eddie are about to be inducted into the Gridiron Greats Hall of Fame tomorrow night up in Detroit, so we look forward to hearing their stories from that event. So another great show, another jam-packed episode is going to be with us next week, so please be here. Join us with my new co-host, Bob Lazari. I want to remind everyone how you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at CT Mascaro. Keep following Ange at FL Storms with Z. Our new co-host is Bob Lazari. He is simply at Bob_Lazari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. Please also check out our Facebook page and give us a like. That's important to us, too. And you can stay up to date with our future guest stream or download any of our archive episodes by checking out our website, ThursdayNightTailgate.com. Plus, if you're looking for a great place to take the family this summer, please check out our friends at the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. Great friends, great place. And take us home one last time, my friend.
On behalf of Chris and our announcer Joe LaGenusa, I send our thanks to Tim Pickett, Kyle Turley, and everybody over at Gridiron Records for their partnership and our closing song coming up. An additional thank you out to Kyle for putting his signature on the portrait I did of him a couple years ago that raised some money for the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund and Kevin Turner Foundation. Keep up the great songs, Kyle. Love the tunes. Thanks to all the followers and everybody who tuned in to listen to me and Chris babble for the past few years. It's truly been a fun ride, and I hope you enjoyed the shows and the interviews. Continue to follow TNT and download all the episodes. They are going to be back next week. And until then, good night, Kevin. Keep fighting.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. Something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.